Well, hello. We are live. It is Wednesday, and hope you loved the countdown. I'm not sure how I feel about it, but thought I'd give it a try. Hopefully, you got down boogieing with that. Is that what the kids say? The kids say boogieing, don't they? It sure slapped or something. I'm going to stop before I drive you away. Good to see so much happening in the chat. I do see that Cantor Mark was the very first one to leave a comment yesterday. Does that count if it's not the same calendar day? Sabrina jumped in here and said, I did see the comment. And yes, I did too. No, it was Officiantly Not Boring who said she saw the comment. Sabrina did chime in there. Anyway, love all that's going on. There's so many of you jumping in. We must be doing something right because this is week 8, session 8 of Wedding Zero to Ceremony Hero. Another side effect of me doing this is I've never said the title of my own book so many times. And the last couple of weeks, I've actually gotten it right. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to practice saying the title of my own book. It is Wedding Hero Wednesday. We are walking through this book. If it is your first time here, you've missed 7 sessions, but that's okay. It's not like a TV show where you'll be totally lost if you miss the first few episodes. No problem. You can jump in now. You can watch the replays on my YouTube channel anytime. Just go to the channel. You might be watching it right now. You go to the live tab and you will see any and every time I've gone live right there. You can watch at your own pace. Speaking of Netflix, you can binge away on demand whenever you like. So I'm super thrilled that so many of you are here to jump in with me and get to work today. We are kind of into the ceremony start. If you are following along, you can get your own copy of this book on any Amazon platform in your country, wherever you are. Go to Amazon, search up the book, and you can get this for yourself. In my hardcover copy, we are on page 50, which means we are about at the halfway point. This book's 100 and some pages with the appendix. And so we are, like I said, about halfway through the book, which gives you an indication. Like we are just at the part where the officiant enters now. And you might be thinking, what was the first half? If we're just getting to the officiant walking up there, what was the first half? Well, that's an indication of how it's taken basically 50 pages and 7 previous sessions. The level of detail required in a ceremony is intense. Which is why, of course, I sell a course about it, written a book about it. And I always say, when you're writing a script, don't just write the words you're going to say. I was on a coaching call with somebody yesterday, and, we were talking about how they were using my script, and the first 2 pages are all the stage directions, who's in the wedding, how everybody's lined up, all those pre-checks you need to make. And this book is all about that. Now, this book is setting you up to walk your couple through a wedding workshop 4 to 6 weeks before the day. Ideally, you sit down with your couple and you say, let's go through the ceremony. Let's talk all the details. So we're using a spreadsheet. This book basically follows the spreadsheet I created years ago and provide in Unboring Wedding Academy, stage 1. This book is stage 1 of the course, and there are 6 stages. You'll see the little thumbnail at the corner of the screen there. If you want to grab that spreadsheet, unboringweddingacademy.com/spreadsheet. I've said before, it's typically a thank you to readers of the book, people who purchase the book. It is now a thank you to those of you who are taking the time to join live and follow along with me in this training, because essentially I'm reading the book with you so you don't have to. Because, hey, if you'd rather be reading a Stephen King book, I get it. You just want the information that's in here. It's kind of like that old adage, nobody buys a drill because they want a drill. They buy a drill because they want a hole. So that's what you're doing, is you're with me, you're tagging along. We're trying to make this as fun as possible, but ultimately you want to know the goods, which is what I have put together here. So much fun stuff happening in the chat. Mark is here from Aitken. Mark Aitken. Mark is not here from Aitken. Mark is here from St. Anne, Manitoba, as we established. Claudia is here from Southern Ontario, Lake Erie. Reverend Claudia, she's one of the OGs. I know I've said this before, but years back, came inside Unboring Wedding Academy. I'll never forget being on the phone with her in Toronto. And amazing. She is on unboringwedding.com/certified. So thrilled you're here. Chris is here. And if you are commenting on Facebook, I will remind you, click that little link in the comments so that I can see your name. It looks like most of you are doing that, which is awesome. Tamara's here from Illinois, one of the newest members of Unboring Wedding Academy. Thrilled you're here. Linda's here from Hamilton. So that's a new representing from Ontario. Good to see you. And Pinkerton from Northern Ireland. Wow, on a breezy but blue sky day. Some of you are rubbing it in, how nice the weather is where you are. Sun is shining in Tennessee, says Bonnie. It is like bone-chillingly damp here and drizzly. You know, I had the wool cardigan on before I got here, but I didn't want to look like, an 85-year-old man. But I would be wearing that if I weren't live. It is just one of those chilly days here in New Brunswick. Drizzly by the sea. Bill is here. Big hi from the lake. From the lake of the sky. I think it's Lake Tahoe, right? Is that right, Bill? You've been here enough that I kind of starting to sense where you're from. Leo's here from Orlando, not Orlando from Leo. That would be different. Elizabeth is here. Liz from Wisconsin. Good to see you. Jeff, I love this comment. Hello, my wife and daughter are kidding me about going online to be the officiant. Thanks to you and everyone comments, they will be surprised. So do you mean they're laughing at you for like learning how to officiate online or being an online ordained? There's a couple ways to take this, but glad you're here, Jeff. We're not laughing at you. We know what you're doing. And you'll get the last laugh because you're gonna crush it. I know sometimes our family members are our worst ribbers, right? Mark is here. Good. I'm glad you did tag the wall yesterday. I think Facebook took it down. I did notice. So I saw your comment and then it disappears. It's almost like YouTube erases comments that happened too early. But I think it should stay. Lisa's here from LMC. Good to see you. Karen is here. Booked another couple. Karen, you are on fire. Karen is rocking it. She is a certified member, Academy and Pro, and has our website package. Love hearing those good things and seeing you live so I can kind of keep up with you. Cantor Mark says, for those doing unboring Jewish weddings, the parents of each marrier walk them down the aisle in a traditional Jewish wedding. There you go. Update. Thank you very much. Keep me honest. I say there's no way every officiant can know everything. I remember when a Jewish couple asked me to break the glass for the first time at the end of the ceremony. I felt like I was committing some sort of sacrilege. I was like, shouldn't just a rabbi be doing that? Shouldn't somebody of Cantor Mark status? They're like, oh, no, just throw the glass down and smash it. And then I said, well, true to any wedding ritual, shouldn't I explain it first? Because if you've seen my lives, I'm all about in my training, when you do a ritual, explain what is going to happen and why it's significant. And I've done many glass smashing since then, and every Jewish couple just says, no, just smash the glass. Everybody knows what it means, or doesn't, and they don't care, which I found really funny. That kind of goes against my typical adage about, don't do a ritual unless you explain it and everybody knows what it is. So back to my original point, there's no way you can know all the rituals and all the things, the ways that certain traditions or ethnicities do things. That's why we don't need to be a know-it-all when we're an officiant. We don't need to be a big-headed, you can't tell me anything. A lot of times in these planning sessions, we're saying to our couple, interesting, I've never done that. Oh, I've never heard of that. But now that I know you want that, because we have 4 to 6 weeks to go, I'll go research that. I will, learn up on it. You can ask them, how do you want to come down the aisle? How do you want to? But the purpose of this meeting, thank you for this segue, Mark, because I can go on a rant on that, again, is to ask them what they want to do. It's not to sit around and just kind of say, well, I don't know, what do you want to do? Just ask them, what do you want to do for your wedding? Here I am with a blank sheet of paper ready to go. That's why we take them through the spreadsheet. We are their guide and we ask them about microphones, and we ask them about little things like, our opening statement, and whether or not people can take pictures, and what music is playing as guests arrive, all those little things that they're like, oh man, I didn't think of that. So it's kind of that perfect balance of what do they want, but also prompting them, because we're coming from an informed place. But informed doesn't mean we know everything, and you have to have that fear of imposter syndrome, or being found out that you don't know. That's not an officiant's job. It's not for you to know everything. It's for you to facilitate their perfect ceremony. Sometimes that means going to do research, which is probably what some of you are doing right now with me. Put the time in to learn and educate yourself, as they say on social media. Just go educate yourself, man, which is what you're doing here. Mark says it's a good buffer and allowed you to connect before you started talking. Yeah, so thank you for your early comment there. Brenda, good morning from Las Vegas. I launched the Merry Moment website over the weekend. Good for you. Launched a professional website. Amazing stuff. Rockin' Reverend Rhonda is in the house. Good to see you. Ava's here. You're the best. No, you're the best, Ava. You're the best. Good to see you. Finally caught a live session from Boston, April said. Well, good to see you. My neighbor 5 hours to the south, Salem, Massachusetts. Cheryl's here from the Witch City. Is that what they call it all these years later? 400 some years later. So quite the reputation. That really stuck, didn't it? Jeff is here and just said, sorry, you're saying yes to a previous comment. Good. Beth is here from Brigham, Utah. Nice to see you. Wow, we've got amazing representation everywhere from Ireland to Utah, 2 places that could not be more different. And Sabrina says she came back from Cali to 3 couple contracts in the mail. Absolutely amazing. Wow. Good for you. Jillian's here from Ottawa. We're almost at the bottom of it here. And Sabrina's saying everybody mash that thumbs up button. Can't argue with that. All right, let's get going here. This is so awesome. I don't know if this frustrates some of you, are like, it takes Mark 15 minutes to get into it. I hear that. I hear that criticism in my own head, and perhaps some of you are saying that. But I love spending this time with you. And if you're watching the replay, you're probably getting used to just skipping 10 minutes ahead. But part of this is the togetherness, the amazing chat, in the wisdom in the comments. We had members only office hours on Tuesday for members of Unboring Wedding Academy and Pro. We can have our own little private once a month thing. And man, it is the incredible wisdom of everybody with all this experience sharing in the chat. So feel free to do that in the chat as I'm talking. I'm not offended. This is not like a classroom. Yeah, that's a good question, Leo. Where's Ben? For example, sometimes people have I know Andy comes in here and sends me a message after the fact a lot of time and says, I can't catch your live, but, et cetera, et cetera. So thanks, Beth. Yeah, I'm being me. You're right. I'm being me, warts and all. Let's get to page 50. I'm going to flip over to the spreadsheet now. Again, you can get this at unboringweddingacademy.com/spreadsheet if you want to grab this for yourself. Hugely helpful resource that you can use and bring right into your wedding workshops with your couple. I always recommend get yourself a laptop, fill this out as you go. And so let's dive in then. I'm going to flip over to this tab on my end. Now you will see here, I don't know if you notice, but, oh, look, somebody's getting it right now. You can tell in Google. Some anonymous anteater is grabbing the spreadsheet right now. Love it. Okay, so you'll notice, and thank you for helping me update this in real time. I added, last week I said I might, and I've just gone ahead and done it. We talked last Friday about how traditions are changing, gender neutral language, that kind of thing. And I said if I were to really radically overhaul this, I'd probably change partner to marrier, but because my book says partner, so I'm keeping that consistent. But I did add this row, our partner A and or partner B walking down the aisle in the processional. If you want to catch the whole conversation around that last Friday, it was what do I do differently for a same-sex wedding? And I said, I think I might change my spreadsheet as I think about it. And last Wednesday hinted at that, and maybe so I just added it. There you go. It's a permanent new addition. Because, assuming that it's a bride and she's going to walk down the aisle, that is changing like everything else in weddings. It's like it's 100% of the weddings do it, then 90, then 50, then. And so I'm just kind of trying to update this too. I find myself in my wedding workshop saying to couples now, th- not I don't assume that the bride will just walk down the aisle. Sometimes there's different arrangements. Sometimes they both do. Sometimes they walk down together. So I'm kind of, you have to have a sheet that reflects that majority of weddings. But I also, at this point in my elimination questions, last week I said I had 3. In the book, I have 3. I just updated it right now. So there you go. You saw that happen. So last week we talked about those elimination questions. And the reason for that is, as I said last week, there are so many ways to start a wedding ceremony. It's just overwhelming. It's a hairball. What we want to do is kind of narrow it down to a manageable procedure of questions, I would say, kind of chronologically. And so when we get the answers to these questions, we're eliminating the dozens of options that would otherwise be at our disposal. We're saying, oh, great, if this is happening, then all these things are not happening. Oh, this is happening, all those things are not happening. So that was last week. And I don't have to rehash that because you can just go watch it on the replay. So we'll start here at number 34 now in the spreadsheet, which is, how does the officiant enter? So what we've done here is we've narrowed down if there is formal honorary seating. We have kind of figured out how partner A and partner B's party are walking down the aisle. So let's just say, for the sake of, what is most common, we'll say that partner A's party, so groom's party, are walking in ahead of time. They're not in the processional with Mary or B or partner B's processional party. Again, we talked about that last week, how sometimes they come in 2 by 2 in pairs, and other times one of the party is already up there, and that means in the processional, only one of the party is walking down. Traditionally, again, bridesmaids all alone. It depends on where you are in the country and where you are in the world, how this happens, and in terms of what happens the most often. But now we've got all that behind us, and we talked to our couple about how does the officiant enter. Now, I've answered some questions in email lately about people saying, now, I'm wondering how I should come in. Should I come in? Should the groom come in first and seat, and then I go up, and et cetera, et cetera? And I would just say, officiant, you are the first person in. You don't need to overthink this, okay? The simple answer here is, if the officiant comes in first, and that is not out of any sense of self-importance or self-aggrandizement. And believe it or not, I do see a lot of that in officiant Facebook groups and things, not our member group, not the Unboring customers group, not the members groups, but other kind of general officiant groups where the officiant says, for example, I'm not getting out of the way of the picture. I'm the officiant. Don't they know who I am? And I do not recommend that at all. So we're not coming in first because we think we are, all that in a bag of chips. We are coming in first, friend, because before a wedding ceremony, it varies a little bit, but typically people are chit-chatting and talking and standing in the aisle, and there's conversations, people catching up here and there. They haven't seen each other in years. There's this like hubbub happening. And if you try to do any formal seating, if you say, okay, I'm going to send in the best man with grandma, 1 minute before ceremony starts, chances are 90% of the time, I would say, it's very rare that everyone's sitting obediently facing the front at start time. It does happen, but you never know what the room's going to be like, because every wedding's different people, different dynamic. But I'm going to say 90% of the time, if you have a groomsman just kind of come in from the back, seat grandma, and maybe go back or take his place up front, everyone's going to miss that. No one will have noticed. They didn't know we were starting. They weren't paying attention. So it's really important, as the officiant, you are the one who kind of, gets the fingers snapping. You're the orchestra conductor doing that tap 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 thing on the music stand. That's you. You walking up there, standing front and center and smiling at everybody is what makes that happen. It is what makes everybody snap to. The hush happens. That's what I wait for. And that's when I recommend the formal seating happens. So in the previous question, if we did narrow down oh, is there some formal honorary seating for a parent or a grandparent or something? Don't have them go in first if you haven't gone up there, because everyone's going to miss it. You walk up there first. So let's talk a couple of scenarios over. Either you walk up there alone, smile at everybody, and make your opening remarks. That'll be the case if everyone else is in the processional. Grooms in the processional say marrier A, all their party, marrier B, all their party. Some couples make it really simple and say everybody and their cousin literally is in the processional. But I think more often, at least where I am, what they would like is for there to be some party and maybe marrier A, partner A, to come in before the processional and be up there with me when I give the opening remarks. And I personally love that when I'm up there with one of the marriers. If it's a groom, I'm kind of slapping him on the back and saying how good he looks and telling them to turn off their phones, just like the guests, all that stuff. It's kind of fun. When I say, "Are you ready?" I say to marrier A, "Are you ready?" And he'll be kind of pale, and yeah, I'm ready. So it's kind of fun to have kind of that straight man there. In terms of the comedy duo, if I'm kind of being that big presence and the groom is kind of like a deer in the headlights, it's really fun to have him as a foil. And sometimes, it depends on his personality. He's gregarious and that kind of thing. I talked about how last Friday, when I've done same-sex weddings, both brides walked in one after another. Two gentlemen, one was up there with me, the other gentleman walked down the aisle. So lots of different configurations. But this is the kind of conversation you're going to have at this point. For this part, how does the officiant enter? Am I walking up alone? Okay, if that's the case, that's an easy one, right? I'm just checking in to see if people are still hearing me and stuff. And I see Mario will be kind of pale. Yeah, that's right, Jillian. I'm sure you know. The grooms are typically basket cases right before a ceremony. It's really amazing. Brides are often really like, "Hey, I'm so excited," and grooms are like, "Gulp, gulp, gulp," and it's really fun. I love the nerves. It's kind of like feeds me before a wedding. I absolutely get a kick out of it. Not to say I'm not nervous too, but maybe not as nervous. When I look at grooms, I'm like, wow, I might be nervous, but not nearly as nervous as that guy. And that's why we're kind of that comforting presence. So the other alternative, if we're not walking up alone, is I do ask the groom, for example, do you want to walk in with me side by side? So a couple of options here. You, again, as the officiant, you're going to be the one to center the attention. Now, you'll get a sense sometimes people are looking at the back and stuff, but you won't know that when you're having this meeting 4 to 6 weeks before the day. So you will ask, "Hey, do you want to walk side by side with me in?" That's one option. Another option is often I will be well ahead. Say I will start walking, and then behind me can be the groom, marrier A, either in a single file with all his party behind him, or walking side by side with his best man. That's another option if they're longtime buddies or something, or even sometimes the groom is a father and the best man is a son. And I would say, okay, I think I'm going to suggest that I walk in with a significant gap, and then when I'm kind of hitting the seats and standing there, then you guys should come in. We don't want it to feel like a processional. So that's the other thing. We don't want it to feel like a badly done processional or processional light. What we do want is to be able to walk in, though, and have people realize, oh, it's starting. And that's where like a file of attendance, people understand that this is formal. That's where if you just have, a best man coming in and seating a grandparent, they're not going to get any sense that this was the kickoff of the ceremony. Okay, so that's the kind of stuff you're going to want to discuss with your couple. It took a long time to say that one cell on the spreadsheet, but with your couple, it'll be a lot quicker than that. Then how and when does partner A enter? You might think this is redundant, and in a way it is, but I don't want to take anything for granted. I don't want any assumptions. Assumptions are just the death of us when we're making a planning session and writing a wedding script like this. So how and when does partner A enter? Well, I'm going to write on 34, this cell here, this row, how I enter, and then how does partner A enter? And again, sometimes that's going to be with his mom seating her, then taking his place. Sometimes that will be, behind the officiant. Sometimes that will be beside the officiant, whatever it is. you want to write there. That way you know how the officiant's coming in, how Marrier A is coming in. And then next is the order of partner A's party entry. Now, this is pretty major in the sense of, and this is like I've said before, this is where the cocktail napkins come out. I have taken to giving my couple, a page of my Moleskine notebook and say, if you need to start diagramming this, please do it now, because this is really important. So typically, and I know I overuse that, but it's because there's no real normatives in a wedding ceremony anymore. But typically, or most often, you're going to have the groomsmen, if they're all marching in right now, say, before the ceremony, before the opening remarks, not part of the processional, they will be in a line. Opposite to the bridesmaids or Marrier B's party, they come in farthest to closest, right? You kind of lead up to Marrier B. Here, just for simplicity's sake, if they're all marching in a single file, not like a processional, just a big long line of partner A's party, just filing in a big row, which makes quite a splash, and people are like, woo, you get the whistles and stuff like that. Then you want them lining up from closest to you to the farthest. So this is what I tell the couple. That's what you're going to tell them. And then you're going to say it's time to think about the order in which you want them to stand. This is where everything breaks loose, if you know what I mean. Everything hits the fan in the sense of sometimes the couples are like, okay, here we go. Because if there's 8 and 8, say, or as I told you, Jessica and Prashant, there were 11 on his side and 7 on her side. Sometimes this takes some real thought. How are they going to stand? Now, there are a few things to consider, and I share this in my book. One of the things is relationship to the marrier. So again, just like the best man traditionally is kind of best buddies with the groom, they might want to make this choice based on their relationship. The closest, quote unquote, to the groom in relationship is closest in the lineup. Now, that often leads to some butt of the jokes to the guy at the end, especially in the rehearsal. Oh, Caleb's at the end. He doesn't really need to be a Caleb's. Oh, well, I guess I'm on the end. Am I even that important at all? That kind of thing. And I sometimes have to say, look, you all made the cut. Nobody needs to get their feelings hurt. It's a lot of fun. But that's often how they make their decision, is closeness or how long they've known Marrier A, and they sort them that way. The other thing is, okay, here's the other consideration, height. That's just a very practical thing for photos. Sometimes they don't want, somebody's 6'5" and somebody's 5'10" or something like that. They don't want it kind of zigzagging all up and down. So they will arrange their party from tallest to shortest or shortest to tallest, maybe sometimes set by the best man's height. They're the person of honor next to Marrier A. They'll say, well, that person's really short, so we want to go shortest to tallest. Or that person's a giant, so we want to go tallest to shortest. That's another consideration. The other consideration, the third one, is the order in which, say, the bridesmaids or Marrier B's party are going to come in and stand. If they're not coming in before the ceremony, this is not a huge thing to consider because they're not coming as part of the processional together. But at the end, in the recessional, they will typically go out 2 by 2 or in pairs. And we want to consider partner B's order. Okay, we're not going to write it down yet. That's coming in a further spreadsheet. But this will determine partner A's order, especially if you have like couples or married couples, spouses that are one on each side. Or sometimes I even joke with the couple, are there any like exes, people who don't talk to each other? Marrier B's girlfriend went out with Marrier A's best buddy, but they don't speak to each other anymore and it's really messy. Well, you probably don't want to pair them up for the day, coming into the reception together, sitting as counterparts at the head whatever. You probably don't want that. So that's the fourth consideration, is relationship to the other party's the other marrier's party. Okay, that's the other thing. Okay, so rounding up again, if you were keeping score, let's see if I can remember them all. Relationship to the marrier, that's one thing to consider. Height is another thing to consider. Relationship to the other marrier's party, the counterpart across the aisle, so to speak, and how they will stand. And then the fourth thing, and I tell an anecdote in my book, the fourth thing comes from something that happened to me at a super fancy wedding I officiated for a pro athlete. It was an amazing ceremony. Everybody's lined up at this breathtaking Ottawa venue, star studded guests. I get everybody at the back. Everybody's lined up. Bride and groom, they have, they've seen each other, so they're not hiding. It's a really fun atmosphere. And I look at this planner, just top class planner. We've got everything. We're checking on our script because, of course, I did this with this couple. Everything's ready to go. Literally, I do my pep talk with the couple or with the whole party. Are you ready? These two, whatever happens out there, we're gonna go for it, etc. The big cheer. All the guests are sitting in a field overlooking a meadow in the sun, so they're like, when is this going to start? They're turning their heads, craning their necks, and the cheer just makes that even more intense because they're like, okay, well, now there's cheering back there. What's going on? We were fairly on time. Actually, no, I think we were 15 minutes late. Yeah, now that I recall. And I'm saying, okay, everybody, are you ready? And then all of a sudden I heard, stop, stop. And it's the bride shouting, stop, stop. Now, your heart stops when you hear the bride shout, stop, when you're starting, the moment you're starting. So we both look at her, planner and I, and we look at each other. Speaking of pale, Jillian, we were both like, gulpity gulp. And she says, wait a second. And she's looking at all of the parties lined up. And she said, this is all wrong. And I look at my script and I'm like, no, it's right that we're following. She's like, no. What we didn't think of when we were doing the planning session was look at their gowns. Their gowns look terrible because I have, 6 bridesmaids, 3 and 3, and they have alternating styles. I chose 3 to have one style of gown and 3 to have the other. And it looks like a disaster unless they're staggered, one after the other in alternating gown styles. And, and so we said, oh, okay, yeah, and it's true. The first, 2 had the same, and then they were staggered. So the planner jumps in there. We're looking at their styles. We're reordering. The bride comes around and starts saying, okay, you can go there. You can go. It took us about 5 minutes. It was pandemonium, and they were paired up with the groom's party as well. So we had to grab the guys and make sure they stayed with their counterparts because again there were a lot of couples and yanking and rearranging. And this was, we're already late. I thought we were starting, I use the analogy that I got like a mental groin pull because I'm like, here we go. And it was like a false start at the Olympics where just like, you're like, here we go, stop. And so we figured that out. Then I went out there, but I was rattled. It was a kind of rattled way to start because then we had to calm everybody down. There were some giggles and are we ready now? And again, that was 5 minutes extra longer. And I made a vow to myself, a couple made vows, but I made vows. I will never not ask about dress styles again. I will, whatever it is. So this is what I asked my couple. My couples now are like, are there any colors or styles, whether it's men's wear or women's wear, the gowns, the suits, whatever it is, are there anything about what they're wearing that needs to be taken into consideration here? Are you going to have, half your guys in stripes and the other half in polka dots and they need to be staggered like that all in alternating order? That could be important. So that is the fourth thing that you need to think about when you're talking to them about how they want to stand. And that's why I say you're just going to kind of walk them through here. But this cell is unlike all the other parts in this planning session. As I told you before off the top, and this meeting only takes 1 hour with your couple. And I tell them this. I told you to tell them this. It only takes an hour because if there's anything you don't know, I'm not going to sit here and watch you hash it out. For example, if you say for the pronunciation or the presentation at the end, when I say Mr. and Mrs. last name, whose last name do I say, or do you want only first names, or do I not say a last name? And I'm not going to watch them have the changing of the name discussion while I watch and get my popcorn. I'll just say, okay, you don't know, you don't have a gut feeling about that. We have a few weeks to talk about it. That's an example of how for most 99% of the things in this conversation, I'll say, you don't know, discuss, get back to me. except this one. This one, I don't let them say. And a couple of them have tried. We'll figure this out. And I'm like, no, no. Now is the time to figure this out, because when I make the script, I need to put all those names in. I need to put Mary or B's names in. This is really important. So this is the one exception to, oh, we'll figure it out later. If you say I'll figure it out later for 7, attendants on each side, when it comes time to make your script the next day after this meeting from this information, what do you put a question mark there? It's not a good scene. So I do sit there and hash this out. Sometimes it takes a good 10 minutes. And now we are, after that, ready to move on, because the rest of the processional, once we figure this out here, a few questions down here after the song, full order of friends and family in the processional. I just scrolled down here in the spreadsheet. Then this is easy, because we've kind of determined it up here when we talked about the order of Mary or A's party coming in. So once we figure that out, again, you go closest to officiant and down to the left. Then you have pretty much made that determination based on whether or not that will be simpatico with Mary or B on this other side. Okay. Then we're getting into opening remarks. This is really, really quick. What are their preferences about taking photos? So you're going to go up there and you are going to say, good afternoon, everybody. I've got a whole video on how to kick off with fun opening remarks. If you get my script in Unboring Wedding Academy, you see how I do that. Establish some rapport, get a little bit of cheering. It's super fun. But the information you are communicating, you're not just giving information, you're connecting with the guest. You're loosening yourself up. I could go on about opening remarks for 15 minutes by itself. So crucial, so important that you as the officiant do these opening remarks with the guests before the processional, before Mary or B comes in, before the processional song. You see it's ordered. The processional is just coming up. But you want to, the content of your opening remarks is whether or not guests can take photos. You need to know 2 things for opening remarks. You need to know the photographer and videographer's names, because you're going to say their names in the opening remarks. They really appreciate it. Trust me. When I say Shannon May is taking the photos today, we want to let her do her incredible work. And so please put all your cameras away. We don't want any devices seen when she's taking her pictures. Kelly is the videographer today. We want to let Kelly take incredible video. So let's keep all our devices out of sight. That's how you say it. They love that. They appreciate that. So you need to know the photographer and videographer's names. Remember, you got that up here in the cast of characters. And the second thing you need to know is whether or not the guests can take photos. Ask your couple. It is ultimately their call. The photographer will have feelings and opinions about it typically. Most photographers would prefer all the phones and cameras are away, because nobody really likes a processional with all the cameras and phones. Those photos don't turn out as well as just guests basking in the moment. But ultimately, it's your couple's call. So you want to ask them that. Can guests take photos? If they can, then instead of saying Shannon May is the photographer and Kelly is the videographer, they're taking amazing photos and video today, so please put your things away. What I say is, you may take photos with your cameras, with your devices, but please be discreet. Please stay in your seats. Don't get in the aisle. And please be aware of Shannon May and Kelly. They are the professionals taking the ultimate photos and videos today, and we want to let them do their work. So please be mindful of them and just take photos and video if you're using your cameras or phones from your seat. That's what I say, okay? It's not a downer. It's that quick. And then I move on. We're going to have a great time today. Please turn off your phones, ringers, etc. That's the next thing here. Is I tell the couple, I'm going to tell your guests to turn off their phones and ringers. Is there anything else I need to say? And I would say sometimes they say, can you announce that there's a smoking section, blah, blah, blah. And I say, oh, that will come in the closing remarks right before we end. Sometimes they say, can you announce that there will be a hashtag? I'll say, okay, I can do that here when I'm telling them whether or not they can take photos. It is weird to say don't take any photos besides the hashtag is, etc. for later. Again, I will move that to the closing remarks really briefly. Sometimes there are bags of rice or confetti or something like that to throw in the aisle. And sometimes I will say that here, but I will also remind the guests right before I present the couple, because that's when they would do it. Remember what I mentioned in the opening remarks? Grab your little baggies or grab your flower petals. Get ready to toss those into the aisle for great photos. But I will mention it here sometimes because they're sitting down and they're noticing this stuff on their seat. And I'll say, just before we start, you will notice that there are bags of flower petals for each of you on the aisle. You will need those for the presentation at the end of the ceremony. So just hold those and I'll give you further instructions right at the end of the ceremony. Okay? And we move on like that. So that is the opening remarks. You say, are you ready? Should we get these two hitched? Everybody cheers. Yeah, let's get them married. I let the guests start the ceremony essentially. And then I say, let's begin. I tell the couple that, just the way I told you, you're going to give your couple a sense of what you're going to do so that they feel good about it. They're confident in what you're going to do. And then we are ready for the ceremony music and the processional. Again, 90% of which we have determined because we've talked about how Marier A is going to get their people down. And we are off to the races, which really should conclude our time today. 40 minutes or so. I know I started at like 13 minutes after because I spent too much time yucking it up with you guys in the chat, but I love that and I'm glad you're here. So, any questions about, I should restrict it to, about what I said, otherwise we'll be here for another hour. Any questions in the chat about anything that I might not have been clear about? That link does not work for me. I wonder what link you mean. Are you meaning unboringweddingacademy.com/spreadsheet? It works for me. You know what? Is that? I don't know if that's the link you mean, but I'm going to put it in the chat. Hopefully you see it. All right, let me get rid of this spreadsheet now and bring myself back here. What did I miss? Paul is here from Trumbull. I missed him. Carol popping in. Now I'm back to where Beth says I'm amazing. That's great. Thank you. Thank you for that. I'm going to put that on the screen. Let's see. Jillian says, what's wrong with marry? There's no wrong. Just marrier partner feels very like unwedding-y to me. I encountered the marrier language a couple of years ago, and I just really like it. I don't know who coined it. I think it was somebody who wrote a book. Maybe it was a planner or something. And I was just like, oh, I like that. Marrier sounds nice. So nothing wrong. I talked about it on Friday with our delicate kind of same-sex ceremonies. Should I say same-sex? Should I say LGBTQIA+? Language is limited. It's always evolving. Sometimes we're going to find a word that we like better. And so I like marrier, and I spell it Marryer. As some of you know, I'm creating a ceremony management platform that essentially is going to make this spreadsheet obsolete because it's going to be a platform that you log into. My goodness, the development team shared with me today some screenshots of how it's coming together. It's amazing. You're going to log in and you're going to be taken through questions, almost like more like type form. Really, really beautiful, elegant, simple display. And so I am updating some of the things. Like I'm going to change partner to marrier. And will I change it in 2 or 3 years to something else? Maybe, because again, things around this are always evolving. We don't need to be static or pigeonholed. So nothing wrong. There was no wrong or right about it. It's just that's an expression that I really like now. Okay. Let's see. Carol says, thanks for adding that section for the ceremony start. Helps with rehearsals, etc. Good. Yes, I'm always trying to update this. Ava says, worth noting, many couples have no idea about every little detail we consider to perform their ceremony flawlessly. Yes, they expect to be charged for 15 minutes. This goes back to what I was saying. Here we are taking the front. This is probably when you commented on that. And I'm halfway into this book. So all this went into before we even walk up there. Ava, you're bang on. Exactly. Okay. Jeff says, if you are the officiant walking your daughter down the aisle, do you continue to the front after you leave your daughter? Oh my gosh. Okay. I have a whole YouTube video. I did this as a question of the week, Jeff. Great question. The title of the video is something to the effect of, what if I'm officiating and I'm in the processional? This is really pertinent to dads. So what I'm going to recommend is you come up and give your opening remarks, Jeff, as though you were not a parent, because you need to connect. So sometimes, again, you'll come up with groomsman, whatever, and then you'll give your opening remarks. And then at the end, this is the only difference for parents of the groom or parents of Mary or B, is to say, all right, well, I have to step out now because I have some very important duties, escorting somebody down the aisle, and you can be fun and cheeky about it and just say, but I will be back momentarily. And you leave, and people typically whoop and clap and cheer. And then you go back around. I wouldn't go up the aisle. It's kind of like a bad luck thing. Go around, join your daughter or son at the back of the line, and then enter that way. Never jettison the opening remarks, but this is a way to have your cake and eat it too. Act like the officiant you are. Go to the back, escort your child down the aisle, and then once they are in place, then you sweep around and take your place again. It happens seamlessly. I've helped many parents do that, and it works every time. Okay. Let's see. John says, oops, here I am. Glad you're here. Do I have a processional diagram? No, I do not have a diagram. It's never that official. I would have to look in the random pages of my book. A lot of time it'll be, the marriers, the bride who has a notepad there and starts making circles and writing names on. Okay, we've got Stacy here, Stacy and Tracy and Lacey, and okay, let me see. And they're just kind of figuring it out as they go. And within 2 or 3 minutes, typically they have it figured out based on the relationships and the dress styles and the heights and all that stuff. That just kind of happens organically in the meeting. Okay. Tamara's out. So good to see you. Thanks for joining. Oh, what is a hashtag? Thanks for asking. A hashtag is often on social media. So couples will research this before their ceremony, because a hashtag, of course, is on social media. Hashtag, when I'm watching F1 on the weekend, I'm a huge fan. They say, if you're watching live and you want to comment on the race together on Twitter, X, whatever, or any other social media, TikTok, you'll see the hashtag, F1 race day or something. And that way, all the comments, State of the Union, a couple months ago, last month when Biden was giving State of the Union hashtag, when there's some big event and you want it to be specific to that event, people create a hashtag. Well, a lot of couples do this for their wedding ceremony. Stacy and Tracy get hitched or something like that. They use the hashtag, and then guests can use that hashtag when they're uploading photos of the day, like on Twitter or at the venue on Instagram, make reels. If the couple has done their research well enough, that hashtag will only exist for them. And when their guests tag photos or video from the day, you can just go through all the photos and videos from that day. You don't have to search specific users or whatever. So a lot of couples are doing that and asking the officiant to stand up there and say, by the way, when you post any photos or videos from today, Stacy and Tracy would love to see it. So the hashtag for today's wedding, this incredible event, is hashtag Stacy and Tracy get hitched 2024 or whatever it is. Okay. So there's Jillian. Yeah. Weddings, officiants. Those ones are too general. That is an example of a hashtag. But if you wanted to make it super specific, like I say, take some research to make sure nobody else has done it. It's kind of like a domain for your website. Only one can exist. This is where it's different. In a hashtag, you can, you don't have ownership over a hashtag, but the more unique it is, the more you will sift out other posts that aren't relevant. Okay. Good. And Jillian's kind of giving a hashtag class there as well. Linda says, could you include a link to your spreadsheet if possible? Oh, okay. I just did that, but I'll do it again. Great. There you go. Wedding planners have the diagram. Yeah. Wedding planners are great with the diagram stuff. I've never needed that personally. Because again, I just have this conversation. Talked about this in members only, our Tuesday members only live, how this is why I don't like to send the spreadsheet or send homework to couples. I really like to sit with them, whether it's virtual like this, if they can't drive all the way out to me, or whether it's at the local coffee shop, sitting down and helping them through this. This is one of those things where I want to tell them about the 4 considerations that they didn't think of. To my story about how the bride didn't think of that until she saw her bridesmaids and was like, this is wrong. I want them to think about this stuff ahead of time. Are you thinking about their height? Are you thinking about the relationships to each other, the styles of their clothes? That's the kind of stuff that when you have trained and have some experience, kind of like what you folks are doing here with me now, you just need exposure to it over time to help your couple. You are a guide. Okay. That's ultimately, this book is turning you into a really competent guide for your couple, not a know-it-all. Somebody who's humble enough to say, I don't know everything. I might need to do some research too, but here is what I do know and how I can help you navigate putting together all those details of your ceremony. Okay? Great. That's weird. You're not seeing anything. Oh my gosh. I see it now. Great. What was happening was I was putting it on Facebook. Hopefully, you're seeing it now. I have a little drop down here where I can toggle where I comment on Facebook or YouTube. So hopefully you're seeing it now. It's unboringweddingacademy.com/spreadsheet. I just tested it. Does work for me. You can grab that if you'd like. Thank you, everybody, for your questions, for being here. I really, really enjoy this. This Friday is Good Friday. Happy Easter to those who celebrate. So it's a holiday. The kids are home. There's no school, etc., etc. So I am not going to be doing Friday live question of the week. But the questions never stop. So again, I'll be here next week. But I will be here next Wednesday for session 9. We'll continue with the songs, the processional proper, all that stuff. Can't wait to see you here. Thanks for being with me here today. Like I say, I'm super humbled that you continue to come every week. I'm so enjoying spending this time with you, enjoying bantering with you. So many of you have such great wisdom, such great questions, and thank you so much for that. Thanks for bearing with me when I do things like post comments that I think are going on YouTube, on Facebook, etc., etc. We're live. Stuff happens. Have a great long weekend if it is such for you. I will see you a week from now. Thanks, everybody, for joining for Wedding Hero Wednesday. Hope you get the spreadsheet okay. And if you want to come in and be a member, unboringweddingacademy.com. Check it out. That is my ceremony course where you get all this training. Again, this is stage 1 out of 6. And you get the love story caster, which writes your couple's love story for you in minutes. It's absolutely incredible. And you get access to all these amazing members who I get to journey with and put on amazing, successful wedding ceremonies all over the world. Thank you. Cheers. You said it for me, Paul. Have a wonderful weekend and marry on.